Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this evening. It's been a beautiful day in Blowing Rock. It's always a beautiful day in Blowing Rock. We can just see the sunshine today. So I, as mayor, calling this meeting to order on this March 11th, 2025. Thank you for attending. Now, we're going to change a little format on the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, so we're going to change things up a little bit moving forward and have some kids come. And one of the luxuries of being the town manager's children is I'm going to start with mine. Owen Fox will come up. He is a 10-year-old at Blowing Rock Elementary School, and I'm making his sister, who's 19, not a student, come up with him to support him tonight to do the pledge. But moving forward, the goal is to have some Blowing Rock kids come. We'll start with our town employees, and then we'll kind of reach out to the school system to come and help lead us in the pledge tonight. So I'll ask them to
Now,
come
while
on
we're
up.
waiting for them to get up here, we have a roll call. Cat Perry.
Here.
Dave Harwood.
Here.
Melissa Pickett.
Here.
Doug Matheson. Here. Pete Green.
Here.
All right.
All right, so we'll let them
Thank
start.
you, guys. Come on. Come on, you have my seat. I'm out of here. Come on, let's go. All right, I'm gonna lead it off. All right, ready? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Let's see here. Before we get started, Council, there was an error in calculating the 2024 Board of Adjustments attendance record for Brandon Walker. This was brought to our attention, and we just want to make note that we had two Board of Adjustment meetings in 2024. The first was in January. Second was in December. Mr. Walker was an alternate member for the January meeting. It was not required to attend. In March of 2024, Mr. Walker became a full-time Board of Adjustment member and attended the December 2024 meeting. When the attendance record was calculated, Mr. Walker was looked at as a full-time member for both meetings in 2024 rather than an alternate member for the January meeting, which is where the miscalculation occurred. He attended 100% of the meetings required for a full-time member. We would like to thank Mr. Walker for his service as Board of Adjustments member, and thank you moving forward. All righty. Okay, now, Council, do I have approval of the minutes from February 11th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Meeting minutes are approved. Regular agenda adoption. We do have a change on this, Council. The Middle Fork Greenway easement, we're removing from this evening. I guess Appalachian Regional or UNC or whatever are still discussing matters, and they want us to hold off. So we're going to pull that from the agenda. So do we have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Pete?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Budget Amendment 2025-05. Of course, we removed the Middle Fork Greenway. Tax advertisement, date approval, April 16, 2025. Reimbursement resolution, 2025 installment financing. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with its changes?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? And Pete. Okay,
Aye.
consent agenda is approved. All right. Under the public comments, ladies and gentlemen, please keep this to 3 minutes. And I would strongly recommend you don't make any comments on the public hearing this evening. You can make comments on that public hearing at the time when we open it up for the public after the presentations, okay? So do we have anybody that wishes to speak? Hillary? Okay. Ms. McCoy, you heard what I was speaking of. You want to speak on the Parkway, the shops at the Parkway? Okay. If you would, could you hold off till we go through the presentation process and so on? Thank you so much. All righty. Anybody have comments? Okay, cool. All right. Under the regular agenda, resolution post Helene support for small businesses. I would like to welcome the Boone Chamber Director, David Jackson. David, come on down. If you would, David, just your name and your address for the record.
Strangely enough, this is the second time I've done this today. More on that in a second. But my name is David Jackson, 606 Northridge Drive over in Boone. I'm here representing the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce and with Robin Miller tonight from the Blowing Rock Chamber. So we are a tag team duo. So I am fresh out of Beech Mountains Town Council meeting, which did not have this audience for some reason. I don't understand. But today we are wanting to come and say, first of all, thank you for your quick resolution and adoption of the resolution regarding Hurricane Helene and the support for the small business community. And not only that, but encouraging state and federal partners to continue to do what they can from a monetary standpoint and from any kind of technical assistance that they can provide. As we all know here in this community and in many others, we are still dealing with the economic fallout from the storm. Still dealing with a lot of the physical elements of the storm as well. So a couple of weeks ago, Joe Furman, our Director of Economic Development, and I went to the county commissioners to ask them to adopt a similar resolution on behalf of the county, stating that they support further efforts by both the state and federal government to do what they can when they can. And we told them that if they adopted that, we would follow in good faith and ask each of the municipalities to do so. So by virtue of Beech Mountain's meeting being before yours, you all are the third body to adopt this so far. So we thank you for that. And thank you for doing so quickly. This was a pretty tight turnaround, and Shane and the staff did a great job in getting this to you. What we hope to do with this moving forward is just simply say we're a united community. That we can have all of our municipalities encouraging partners, advocating up, if you will, and giving support to those that are fighting hard for our communities. This resolution does not say that they are not, but what it is saying is we appreciate that support, and anything that we can do as a united Watauga County to further benefit what our businesses are going through, and by that, what our individuals are going through, we're certainly supportive of that. So thank you very much for that adoption. Real quickly, too, I would like to extend a brief welcome to Robin on behalf of the Boone Area Chamber. Robin and I have worked together quite well already over the last couple of weeks, and we're really excited about the technical expertise she is going to bring to this moment. Having somebody from an area that was hit by the same storm and has been through this a time or two has already benefited our community in just helping us understand what to expect. And that's one of the chief things that we've done in the last few months is try to benchmark what comes next. And Robin's been able to answer a lot of those questions already. So thank you, Robin. Thank you, Council, and we appreciate your support of this resolution tonight.
Council, I will read the resolution. And then I think Mr. Jackson would like to get a group photo. Okay. So, resolution requesting the United States Congress and the North Carolina General Assembly continue to provide financial and administrative support for small businesses in Watauga County and all of western North Carolina counties impacted by Hurricane Helene. Whereas Hurricane Helene devastated the western counties of North Carolina on September 27th, 2024. Whereas these impacted counties continue to make progress in the physical cleanup but much remains in the financial recovery of these communities and their small businesses. And whereas the month of October is typically one of the top, if not the top month for tourism spending in the entire year for these counties, and whereas October was followed by slower economic performance expected throughout the winter, leaving many businesses vulnerable as they moved toward shoulder season, and whereas small businesses are the key drivers in the employment of residents across Watauga County and western North Carolina, and whereas these businesses contribute directly to sales and occupancy tax collections in western North Carolina, two sources that will be important to our community's long-term economic recovery, and whereas while many organizations are working to provide direct support to the businesses and individuals, more programmatic support, technical assistance, and funding support will be needed to aid in recovery efforts across Watauga County and all of western North Carolina. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Blowing Rock Town Council respectfully requests the United States Congress and the North Carolina General Assembly continue to provide financial, administrative, and technical support and find other creative solutions to ensure our local businesses have the resources they need to sustain and flourish as they continue the road to recovery from Helene, adopted this 11th day of March 2025. Now, photo op, did you want to?
Yes, sir. You got the time? The chamber thing.
There you go. Yeah, let me sign that thing.
Squeezing guy.
And Shane can have it framed for you.
You're very wide angle there.
Pete's put some weight on.
Are you intending to be in the?
I'm not at all.
It's okay, my camera.
Fox
doesn't
fans
turn.
already had.
Yeah, we've had enough. Let's be-
Okay, it's my turn.
Don't we charge $1,000 a photo, council? Okay.
Put it on our tab.
Good seeing you. Thanks for everything. Ms. Miller, thank you.
Our NIL fees,
Good.
our NIL fees.
All right. Okay, moving right along. This is the public hearing for conditional zoning 2024-05, conditional rezoning from GB to CZCD, Village at the Shops on the Parkway. Mr. Kevin Rothrock.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We'll read through the staff report and then answer any questions you might have, and then the applicant has another presentation that they'd like to go through, and then we can answer questions again. So to start off, this is CZ 2024-05, conditional rezoning from general business to conditional zoning general business for the Villages at Shops on the Parkway, Phase 1A. The applicant is Shops on the Parkway LLC, and they're requesting this conditional rezoning to develop the property from a single-level retail center to a mixed-use development with retail, restaurants, and residential units. The applicant is seeking approval of Phase 1 only, which is an addition of 34 dwelling units in a 3 to 4 story building on the south end of the property along the Middle Fork New River. The applicant is sharing their entire master plan at this time with the community for future long-term expectations, but anything beyond Phase 1 will require additional approval of a potential rezoning. The applicant purchased the Shops on the Parkway in 2022 and have determined the property is underutilized. Applicant proposes a community with residential, retail shops, restaurants, adequate parking, outdoor lawn and dining areas, all tied together within a walkable development with pedestrian connections to the sidewalks along 321 and also the future Middle Fork Greenway. This shows the current site, and I'll mention first about setbacks. The Phase 1 residential building and some of the proposed buildings in the project build-out will exceed 35 feet in height, so an increased setback is required, 40 feet off the street and 16 on the sides and rear. Although the plans show 20 and 8, we amended the ordinance a couple of years ago that anything that goes over 35 feet would require additional setback. The project meets all that setback. Now the building down here has got docks, rocks. That's existing and that's still part of this property, but that building is not changing. And so although the setback a 40-foot setback would go into that building is not changing as part of this project or anything future that's been shown. In your staff report, I started talking about architectural stuff. I'm going to skip that and come back to that. Talk about parking a little bit. Let me go back again. As you can see, the way this project is laid out this is the old Polo outlet, rack room, the bathroom section, the new bathrooms. That will be demolished, and this part of the parking lot will be reworked. And this is with the building in place and the new parking and the access around the building for this phase. And then back to the other phase, if this is all built out in the future, the access around the back of the building will come through here. So just to give you perspective, again, only talking about, really talking about just this first phase. The current parking lot will be adjusted to accommodate the proposed retail building. Once the end of the retail building is removed, parking for the residential will be separated somewhat from the rest of the retail center with buffering, and that's on the landscape plan, and I'll show you that as well. The applicant proposes as a condition to change the parking standards just slightly. One parking space for every one bedroom, 2 parking spaces for every 2 or 3 plus bedrooms, plus 1 space for every 4 units in the residential building. So the code currently requires 1.5 spaces for a 1 bedroom, 2 for a 2, and 2.5 for everything 3 or more. They are still keeping that section that requires 1 for every 4 units. So that requires 76 spaces, and the applicant is providing 77 in this area right here, right in front of the building. These are just labeled, but that's still part of the shopping area. It's not part of this count. This landscape plan. The stormwater, there's currently stormwater detention on site. It's in this area where they're planning to build this building. That's going to be changed around a little bit. The impervious areas will be reduced with this Phase 1A, and the overall build out of the project will reduce impervious areas, I think about 28,000 square feet. The applicant is proposing to move the stormwater detention and then also provide some rain gardens and bioswales to treat the stormwater and provide some water quality benefits that's not on site today. Utilities currently served by public water and sewer. Some of that have to be relocated where the current sewer main is right through the middle of the building, so they're going to have to move that. Electrical services still continue to be underground. Garbage collection, there's a new dumpster area. Kind of hard to see, but it's right here. And then there's dumpsters scattered around behind the building to serve the property. And the new dumpster and all the others on site will need to be screened. So that's a requirement on the applicant at some point before the project's receive the CO if it goes forward. We are asking that landscaping, so they're trying to separate this section, this phase one, from the rest of the shopping area. There's gonna be some arborvitae, and currently shown as white pine, but we're thinking maybe hemlocks in this area to try to provide some screening between the two uses. And then down here along, this is the area along Chatola, this is where they collect their, all their residential garbage. And the Chatola side of the fence has adequate buffering, but we think that needs to be beefed up on the project side and extended across that area between the two properties. There is a little walkway through here. We don't expect it to infringe on that. That would be a good access point for the future if it was to continue that way. But through here, there needs to be some additional landscaping in this area. They're showing a 20-foot buffer on the plans. The stream buffer will remain intact along the river. There is an easement through here that's a permanent vegetated 60-foot wide, so 30 feet, I think, from the center of the creek. And then in addition to that, this stream bank that currently is vegetated will remain. There may be a little bit of removal on this area here, on this upper corner, some of the stream buffer. It's beyond the stream buffer. There's some here at the top of the parking lot. Other than that, the rest of this will remain intact. I'll go to architectural. The majority of the proposed building, the residential building will be 37 feet in height. However, there are 6 mezzanine areas, and that will have a maximum height of 53 feet. And the applicant is asking for this as a condition of approval. So it'll be these areas here that will be higher than 37. This is 37 to the peak. It's not a full-on sloped roof. It's more of a parapet. Is that right, Bill? But these are built out, and these are full roof, as you can see from there. So there's been 3 renditions of the building. Originally, they had vertical wood siding, some heavy timber beams, and substantial stucco on the exterior walls. And then we've asked for them to reduce that. And so they've done so. This is the first version that went to the neighborhood meeting. This is the second version that went to planning board. So they reduced the stucco areas to this. And then this is the third. So they changed that. They changed this balcony look a little bit and added some features along the face of that building in a corner design. So you can look and see how they've changed a little bit. And I'll let the applicant explain that a little bit more. There's a draft ordinance that has some language towards site deficiencies that are current, and I listed those. I went out on site earlier this week and end of last week. Really, the things that we found are dumpster screening that's not provided, and then 2 parking lot trees that need to be added back that had been replaced years ago and never added back. Fire access is good. ADA parking is good. Access from ADA parking into the buildings. There's no indication of inadequate or excessive site lighting. No sign violations on site. So those things have been covered and they've been addressed in the draft ordinance. So the applicant had 2 proposed conditions, and I mentioned the parking. 1 space for every 1 bedroom unit, 2 for each 2 bedroom, and 2 or more bedrooms, and then still having those visitor spaces at 1 per every 4. And then maximum building height of the mezzanines to be no more than 53 feet measured at the primary entrance. Staff added some conditions at the planning board to summarize really that if the project doesn't go to another phase, that they would have to upgrade the current retail building to blend in with whatever's proposed finally on the design of this building. And they would have 36 months to complete that from the final CO of phase one. So changing some building materials on the shopping center, adding some timbers and some things like that. And they would have to propose design requirements that would come back before the town to approve that. And that's in the event that they don't do anything beyond phase one if they got that approved. So I think their intent is to do much more, but we want to have some safeguards that we can blend the two projects together if they don't finish out any future phases. And then there was another staff recommendation that the sidewalk be constructed on this little stretch from the building out along and come out here to 321. That's in a future phase here, but we're saying they need to do it now, before CO for the main building. So that was another staff condition. And then the planning board had a condition that all future phases need to address the parking demand of the entire built-out development, including phase one. Neighborhood meeting back in February. Planning board made a recommendation on February 20th to approve the conditional rezoning with the applicant proposed conditions, the additional staff conditions, and the one planning board condition. Provided you the draft ordinance and also the exhibits, which includes the map, and Exhibit B, which is the list of conditions. And that list can be added to or taken away. And then there's a project narrative that the applicant provided. And that's really about it. I'd be glad to go through anything else in the draft ordinance or the staff report to make some clarifications if needed. And other than that, the applicant's ready.
Council will open this to public hearing now that Kevin has given his presentation. Okay.
Anybody? None for me? We'll pull up yours. You want
If you would just state your name.
Thank you, Kevin, Mayor, Council. My name is Chris Barefoot. I'm here with Andrew Hiltz. We're with Oak Hill Management. We are the owners of Shops in the Parkway, and we're putting forward this plan to do redevelopment. Anytime there's something this big in a community, obviously it elicits significant emotion, and as evidenced by all of our meetings. And so I wanted to just take a moment and share some facts that are verifiable about how we've gone about this process, who we are. I've watched a number of the meetings and just things that have been said, and so I just want to set the record straight on a few things. Many of the Oak Hill management team actually are local to the area. Our owner was born and raised in Worthington, went to Carolina, and settled in Raleigh. I grew up in Hudson. I went to Hudson Elementary, Hudson Middle School, South Caldwell High School. I played Watauga High School in tennis and soccer up here. My senior year, I went to prom at Green Park Inn. I took my date there for the meal. So I have tons of experience up here. I remember when the only thing up here was the Parkway, Price's Park, and Blowing Rock, and Kilwins as we drive back through to head back down the mountain. So many of us have very fond memories of Blowing Rock, and we want to be a part of this community, and we want to do great things here. When we kicked off this project, we knew from the start that we needed to really use local resources. And so we interviewed local architects, engineers, and we hired Appalachian Architecture, Bill Dixon. We hired Mike True with Municipal Engineering, who's both of these guys have been in this area for decades, have done many, many projects. We're working and we've partnered with a builder who's second generation. His family's here. He was born and raised in the area, went to ASU, and is settled here. Jay Harrell with Fosco. So we feel like we brought a local team to bear. because we felt like that was super important. During the design process, we tried to be very open with staff. So we shared numerous times with staff about what we were thinking to get feedback. We took their feedback, we implemented it into the project in an effort to make sure that we were hitting the mark when we got to this point, that we were at least somewhat close. We're a small firm in Raleigh that manages a real estate fund that's open-ended. And actually, most of our investors are local investors. So we're not a giant REIT out of New York. Some guys from somewhere else that's just coming in and try to like force our will in the community. We're local people. Most of us have spent almost our entire lives in North Carolina. I was born in Louisiana before my parents moved here. But I've been here almost my entire life. I consider it home. Being open-ended, we don't have any pressure to do anything with our properties, meaning we're not on a timeline that says we have to flip the properties and exit for our investors. We're long-term holders. We like to invest in our properties, and it allows us flexibility. It allows us to be very deliberate with what we do, and we tend to be very methodical about how we approach things. Sometimes we're too slow, but I will take that over other. Being a member of the community now in Blowing Rock, and just thinking about like reflecting over the last decade or so, it's changed a lot in the high country. Like it used to be that there was nothing here but Blowing Rock, and I don't mean any disrespect. We had the Dana Boone Inn. I remember going there, but like the other communities were never spoken about. And now, as I talk to people, like West Jefferson comes up often. I actually did a little bit of research, and I saw an annual report for Ashe County that said in a 5-year span from 2017 to 2022, their tourism revenue doubled. So it went from 57 million to 110 million. So it's significant competition in other communities in the area, and we want to bring more to Blowing Rock. Like we're a part of this community. We want to do things to make Blowing Rock just more of a reason to stop here and spend time here and spend money here. Lastly, on just the fact piece is, I mentioned earlier being in an open fund, we don't have to redevelop this property. Like someone said in an earlier meeting that we have to redevelop the property. We don't have to redevelop the property. It performs well in our portfolio. If we diverted our energies into leasing the spaces that we've vacated for this project and filling everything back up, the property would perform significantly better than it does now. So like, we're not unhappy with how the property is performing, but we just think it's so underutilized and it has so much more potential. When we bought this property in November of 22, the early conversations were like, what could this place be? Like, what could we do with it? And so we feel like we've put forth a plan that it stays with this is the opinion side, so I'm out of the facts. What I feel like it looks like the mountains. We've got lots of timbers and stone and other materials in the plan. We've tried to listen and make it not look like a hotel, which was one of the comments that came earlier. It's just long balconies and it looks like a hotel. I don't think it looks like a hotel anymore. I think it looks pretty, but that's, who knows? Everybody's got an opinion on what pretty looks like. But I feel proud of what we've put together. I'm gonna turn this over to, Bill, do we want to go through a few things and just kind of talk? Kevin, I actually think you did a great job kind of going through. We did have 3 phases. There's a lot of discussion about just like making it not look like a big stucco, which is what we have today. Candidly, we have what looks like a beach outlet mall. And so we don't want it to be a beach outlet mall, but we need density in order for the project to make sense. We have a building that makes sense. We have a master plan that I think makes sense as we continue to go. We don't want to make an eyesore. It's the first major property you see on the north side of the town. And so, thinking about like Green Park coming up 321 is sort of the first major thing you see. Shops is the first major thing you see. I do want to call it, the building is 3 stories with the mezzanines, but it's largely shielded by the trees on 321. So from 321, you're really going to see the end of a building, which is not a big profile, candidly, and we don't have a picture of that. And so it's not like this massive building that you're going to see. You're going to see the end of a building that I think looks really good. The only place you're really going to see the building in its full profile is when you're inside the parking lot. So anything to add?
What are you going to say about the site plan? I'm available for any questions if you have. Mike True with Municipal Engineering. We're the civil engineers for the project. And I'd just like to say it's been a nice project to work on. We haven't been, probably 99% of my clients are on a really tight schedule, and these guys have not been, and we've been slow and methodical. And we worked on the master plan for a year. Came up with several master plans and just went around and around, ran them by the town, ran them by Kevin, and just and have come up with what we think is a good master plan for what Chris mentioned is what we feel is an underutilized piece of property. So we're excited about it. We think it'll be a good project, but if you have any nuts and bolts questions about water and sewer, storm drainage, or anything like that, I'm available to answer your questions. If not, I'll turn it over to Bill Dixon, the architect. Kevin, could you go back to the most recent? I think Kevin's probably better at this. What you know, what you're looking through. You want the town council elevations.
Okay, so you want to go to the other.
That's perfect, thank you. Bill Dixon with Appalachian Architecture. Thank you all for being here tonight and considering this case. I feel like we have listened to the neighborhood and the Planning Commission and their recommendations and made, as Kevin has pointed out, several changes in that process. I will say that the building as it currently is presented meets the current ordinance, with the exception of the 3-foot request to increase the height of the building. So everything you see on this presentation meets your current ordinance in terms of general business district designs. Because of some of the issues with it, the exterior walkway looking like a hotel motel, we've basically reduced the visible railings by close to 50%. We've reduced the amount of stucco on the building somewhere between 50 and 60% in this process. We've added a lot more stone, timber framing. We've broken up the long hallways with what will be enclosed entrances on the second and third floor, but actual private entrances on the ground floor of the units. There's 34 units, range in size, I think from about 1,000 to the ones on the third floor. The mezzanines are about 1,800 square feet. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council. Thank you. Let the public speak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to speak on this particular project, raise your hand and I will call you up accordingly. Mr. Winkler. State your name and address strictly for the record.
My name's John Winkler. I live at 296 Rankin Road in Blowing Rock. And I agree this looks like a mountain property, but it doesn't look like Blowing Rock. And we've had several committees that I'm on that we've tried to really protect Blowing Rock. And to me, this does everything but that. And I hope they can develop it into something that looks more like Blowing Rock. And I was really surprised that the planning board passed it. I couldn't believe it. So I think we need to protect Blowing Rock. It's allowed. It'll set a precedence that probably Blowing Rock will never recover from. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, sir, please. Would just please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, council. My name is Bill Devereaux. I live at 221 Heritage Lane here in Blowing Rock. It seems like there's a lot of ifs in this project. If they decide not to go to phase 2, phase 3, they're going to incorporate the current retail into the look of what they get done in 1. But they still could do 2, and they still could do 3. And as the gentleman before me said, we're looking at something that's not consistent with the look of Blowing Rock. Another concern of mine is that it's 100% short-term rental, I believe, and that opens the door for investors to come in, to buy this property up and to make it kind of a, for lack of a better word, and it may not be fair, a free-for-all in terms of the people who come to our community. Now, the Shops on the Parkway opened in May of 1989, I believe. I opened in Blowing Rock in October of 1989, and my wife and I thought, this is great. We came here from Charlotte, this nice little shopping center. It's got upscale things, and it looks good. It's off the road. It blends pretty well. And when you look beyond it, you could still see Flat Top Mountain. That was the thing that caught your eye. With this, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to come down Valley Boulevard and you're going to see this thing. And I don't think that that's necessarily good for our environment and for our area. I believe the council has an opportunity here to put a few more restrictions in terms of short-term rentals. I would hope that would be the case, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn there, but if you have, or if you are empowered to do that, I hope you would. I don't think this is consistent with the historical architecture, and I know the history of this community is kind of a mishmash of things, but we seem to be going toward this kind of architecture, and I think the people have indicated that that is not the wish that we would like to go for. This community is here. It's a blessing. It's a gift to us, and it was a gift that was given to us by the Cone family and the Stringfellows and the Cannons and the Tates, the Robbins, and even the Devants. They all did not see a piece of property or a piece of land and put dollar signs on it. And we have to preserve this. And it's up to all of us to do that. And I hope we'll give some consideration to the future generations that are going to live and come to Blowing Rock. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, please, Ms. McCoy.
Trina McCoy, 537 Main Street. So I don't think that this is what Blowing Rock looks like. It's one of the first things you see when you come in, like everybody has already said. I have customers that come into my shop that have complained about other buildings that have been built that don't look like downtown Blowing Rock. We're losing that small town feel, what everybody comes up here for. This looks more like Raleigh, like Durham, Charlotte, things that people are getting away from. They want to come up here to be in the mountains, to go hiking, be in the woods, get that small town family feel that we have. And this is going to make it go away.
Thank you. Yes, sir, please.
My name's Luke Snyder, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I own a house also in Yanalasi. I like to say I grew up in this area in Chatola. We used to call that the back 40 acres. I concur with most of the people here that said that, spoke before me. I think the architecture is severely lacking for what Blowing Rock has built over the years. And I think that that should be improved if this process goes forward. I think that there's not any room, from what I gathered, for the common employee that works in Blowing Rock, the waiters, and people who live here and have jobs. And I know this is a tourist town to some extent, but that's a huge development to build. I think the architecture is just very much lacking.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Yes, sir. Mr. Miller?
Have to move this down.
I know the feeling.
Will Miller, 370 Wonderland Drive. After hearing about this and watching the planning commission meeting and hearing Kevin's presentation, my thinking as a business person is to always look at worst case scenario. As real estate developers, which I'm one, we can paint pictures and tell stories and all that kind of stuff. But you got to look, your job is to look at worst case scenario. A lot of promises, we were talking about conditions and this and that, but where's the teeth in any of that? There's several properties in town that got started developing and they stopped, and you have no way, no means, you don't have a bond, surety bond, performance bonds to require people to finish projects. So we have several projects in town that are just sitting there. And that is not good for the community. Worst case is, probably even worse than this, but that they finish this project, it really is a hotel because it's short-term rental, and although there's discussion about selling it, if they don't sell any of the condos, and even if they do, they're short-term rental. So it's really a hotel, and a lot of promises about the rest of the property, but there's no teeth in that. And all these conditions that are being discussed, there's no teeth in those. There's no recourse. And unless you put some kind of performance or construction bonds or something on there that the town can claw back if they don't perform, then I think you're opening up a big can of worms. This property should be master planned by a developer that can master plan and put together a concise project, and it should be rezoned or repurposed in a cohesive manner, not piecemeal. And I'm afraid that what you're going to end up with is a hotel that looks like this, and the shops that look just like they do now. Even though we're talking about the fact that we may make them look like this, there's nothing to enforce them. It's just pure, it's talk. So I would encourage you to, well, one, ask the owner of the property to come back and really give a master plan, and let's put some teeth on it and some real hard commitment. Otherwise, I think we're heading down the wrong road here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm Sarah Murphy, 175 Heritage Lane. I wrote to you all, and some of you responded, so I appreciate that very much. I think the biggest issue is the short-term rental issue. They could be the most beautiful architecture that everybody agrees on, but if it stays 100% short-term rentals, it's a cultural thing. No community members are going to want to buy in there because they're going to be surrounded by renters all the time. I had dinner a couple years ago with some people that live at Eagles Nest, some of those most beautiful architecture in the area. They live there full time. I asked them how many full-timers lived in all of the Eagles Nest. The answer was 8. Things could change, but they wanted to sell because of that culture of just having renters around them all the time. Ironically, I watched the Ken Burns documentary on national parks just a couple days ago, and there was a quote in there. It says, "Once a place is destroyed, it remains destroyed. Once it is saved, it is up to future generations to keep fighting to preserve it." And I think that is a sentiment that so many of us have about this town. We want something that's worthwhile, that we want to save and protect. And I think people are open to compromise and working on things, but this plan still needs a whole lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Who? Jamie Dixie or Barbara?
Yeah.
Oh. How are you, dear?
My name is Barbara Baker. I live at 1171 Wonderland Trail. My family first came here in 1954, and I have been here every year since then, and I'm obviously a registered voter in Blowing Rock. Having watched the town grow from a small, regular, normal town, it had a movie theater, it had a barber shop, had a couple of real little tiny grocery stores, drugstore, the whole thing. It was a neat little town. It's now grown into a beautiful little town. And I want to remind you that it was voted the prettiest town in North Carolina. That's pretty good because there's some other nice, pretty places around here. This presentation today I found a little confusing because what they're showing on the diagrams, and they said, well, we got a variance on that, and that's not really what it is. So what they showed you today is not very accurate. And certainly it's not an asset to the area. None of the architecture blends in or really fits, totally out of character. And we are no longer going to be the prettiest little town in North Carolina. And it's a terrible first impression when you drive in. So please, and we've always in the past been fortunate that the town council protected what we look like. And so we hope again that they use their good judgment and prevent this thing from being built. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Jamie Dixie.
I'm Jamie Dixie, and I live on Norwood Circle. And Luke Snyder spoke, and he talked about Chitola, and I just wanted to ask two questions that people have asked me and I don't know the answer to, so I thought I could get them answered tonight. You probably have watched the planning board tape from that night. Several of us spoke, and then someone from Chitola got up and spoke for 20 minutes or so, advocating for the project. And I watched it 2 or 3 times to try and figure out exactly, what it was all about, and I didn't know either. And people have asked me, is there some connection between Chitola and this developer? I wasn't sure why he was advocating for the developer, because it seems like it would be competition for Chitola.
Not to our knowledge.
Is there a personal connection between the two of them? Somebody said that they thought maybe they knew them, that they knew the family or the fund or something.
I really don't know, Ms. Dixie.
Okay.
Really don't.
Well, that's my question, because I've had several people ask me what the connection between
I think
Chitola and this is.
The mindset is just that the person that spoke, I think, in favor of it. And it's just different mindset, different thoughts, different ideas.
Okay. Well, I was interested to hear somebody from Chitola speak, and it reminded me that people have asked that question, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The answer is we don't know.
We have anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Oh, no problem. You're doing good. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a few comments. My name is Sandy Womble, 285 Misty Ridge Lane. I agree with Mr. Miller. This is a huge project, and there seems to be lacking a lot of detail. And already out the gate, they've asked for concessions to height, to parking deficit, which can set a precedent for future development in that project. And I agree with Mr. Miller. I think maybe if they could give a full scope drawing with details, that would sit better with the community. And there's no FAR information on this. There's no agenda packet for everybody to look at in the minutes. And those are basic things that residents should be entitled to. Okey-doke.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak?
Your council. My name's Marty Landau. I live 193 Edgewood Path. This isn't really Blowing Rock, not the Blowing Rock that I was born in and grew up in, and it doesn't really address the shortage of housing for working people. And I think that that is a big thing that we really need to look at in this town. There's a lot of restaurants in this area that are having trouble being able to get staff to work because they don't have a place to live close enough. And that is something that I think we should look at. But also, it just doesn't really fit the aesthetics that we're used to. I lived in Blowing Rock for a really, really long time. I went to Wilmington. This reminds me of some of the stuff that they're building right now in Wilmington. It doesn't look like Blowing Rock to me. And I just wanted to let you know. I think that we need to address places to live for people that work in this town.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, council, while we have a few others mull this over and maybe decide they want to speak, I've got two letters that were sent in, if I may read these. This one is from Warren, the owner of Chetola, of the Chetola Resort. Chetola Resort shares a 1,366-foot property line with shops on the Parkway. For decades, we've enjoyed a strong neighborhood relationship and are glad that it has continued. Over the past 18 months, we've had many meetings with the shop's owners and their builder and have appreciated their transparency, thoughtfulness, and flexibility. We feel they have listened to our questions and requests and made several improvements as a result. Chetola Resort is in favor of the shop's zoning request, including the use, parking, building height, short-term rental, related elements. We also agreed with the planning board's comments last month. Okay, the next one is from Mr. and Mrs. Greg Wilson. Dear Blowing Rock planners, we have owned our Blowing Rock home for 20 years and purposely bought here because of the special charm and uniqueness of our wonderful town. There was a real sense of community and broad variety of residents and local employees that shared a love of this beloved place. We understand there are many challenges to wise development for any town, including maintaining a healthy tax base so the town's maintenance and improvement needs and economic support structure for commercial establishment are met. But we are truly concerned that section by section inside our lovely town, there is beginning of a visual townscape similar to every other resort town, an artificially planned community scattered throughout the nation. Condos keep popping up literally everywhere, overtaking once charming neighborhood streets. Old storefronts are sold, torn down, and replaced with side-facing condo developments and containing 8 to 12 units. Franchise restaurants are becoming common, and there are signs and signs and more signs literally everywhere, not to mention multiple stop-and-go street directional lights, air hubs scattered throughout our once lovely community with short-term rentals aplenty. We understand that a condo development has been approved where the shops, well, they say, we understand that a condo development has been approved where the shops on the Parkway are presently located, which will be at the entrance to Blowing Rock coming in from Boone. Over 100 units will fill this area going up 3 or 4 stories, along with all the retail spaces that will be below these condos. We truly believe that charm and uniqueness of Blowing Rock is put at risk by overdevelopment of these types of properties. Please give careful consideration to projects and continue to protect our special community. Okay. Council, like to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. Now, further discussion amongst us. May I lead it off? You know, growing up here, I've seen a lot of changes. And you're going to see a lot of changes. Growth, expansion, housing. First off, I feel like council that they're going for conditional rezoning to this property. It should be for the whole. They should submit a plan for the whole property because they're going for conditional rezoning for the whole property, not just where this one building's going. Now, citizens, this is strictly my opinion and not the council's, but I do want to give it. I think it's too tall. It's too large. It does have the appearance of an apartment complex or a hotel. And it is at the entrance of our town. I feel like that these developers are smart enough to have the vision to take this back and bring us something that we like. And I hope that will happen.
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Barefoot, if I may. First, I want to thank you for taking on this project, Oak Hill. Much like Green Park, this is a underutilized property, has been for some time, so I'm really glad to see someone take a stab at it. And you have assembled a really great team. I have the utmost respect for Mr. True, Ms. Coffey, Mr. Dixon, a really stellar team. Has Oak Hill done any other redevelopments like this, and what was the outcome?
Yeah, not on this scale. It's one of the reasons why we chose to bring a builder in who's done things at this scale. So, and Jay's grandfather passed away, that's why he's not here tonight. You know, he wanted to be here, but we are a big family company, and I was like, no, you need to be your family.
Pete.
David, are you done or are you still going?
I probably just got started.
Then I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, let's pass it around.
All
Please
right.
go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank all the people that sent emails and messages. For the most part, they were pretty civil. A couple were a little off the rail, but that happens in politics. First off, I agree with Charlie on the master plan. I'm not prepared to move forward with any vote on phase one if I don't know the totality of the project. So that's number one. Number two, I don't think that represents Blowing Rock. It's out of scale. Maybe if you could come back and separate the buildings a little bit, that might be some progress, but personally, that doesn't do anything for me. So that's where I'd start. David, you can.
I'll let someone else go.
Melissa, thoughts? Thoughts?
Not at this moment.
Okay. Kat?
Not right now.
Okay.
Doug, anything?
Yeah.
I would like to see it downscaled just a little bit. And I also would like to see, a master plan. I would love to see things really, I know that you're trying to improve and enhance the shops down there, but I'd like to see what that plan is and be a little more distinctive about what that plan will be. I would like it, and I know it's nothing that I can ask for, but I can always wish, that there was some part of it would be affordable or some workforce, but, that's wishful thinking for me. But I would like to see a whole comprehensible plan on it. It's just, I don't know, I just look at it and it just looks like one huge building to me. And I don't think, I've tried coming down through Valley Boulevard and looking, and I still, no matter what, I don't think there's enough trees there that's gonna shade it, that I'm not gonna see that initial large building. So, before I start coughing off that.
Mr. Barefoot, the conceptual master plan nearly triples the built area of what is at the shopping center now. We have a seasonal economy that ebbs and flows. Have you done a market study that would support this kind of demand?
The full project?
Mm-hmm.
So Jay's leading up, this is his area of expertise, that's why we brought him on. He's leading up the market study, looking at, what's been happening in the high country, not just within Blowing Rock. Part of our phase one is to validate some assumptions, like is there as much need as we think there is? And that's why we wanted to do the phased approach, is to make sure that we weren't missing the mark. I mentioned that, that's our desire. We shared the master plan, kind of what we're thinking as far as like a site plan overall, to try to give a vision without getting so deep that, this is, candidly, it's time and money. Anyone who does development, as you're doing architecture plans and civil plans, and we've spent a year at this to get to this point, and, trying not to just throw more and more money at, potential plans. But I understand your desire on the master plan. I thought we kind of solved that a little bit with, looking at what's on the ground. We spent a lot of time there. But I think we're open to trying to share more, but I just need everyone's crystal balls, like exactly what's going to be, needed later. That's the dilemma that we have, is it's a big project. So what exactly, because people are asking me like, how many restaurants are you going to have? How many shops? I was like, I don't have that answer yet. And it will probably unfold as we kind of get deeper into the project. We also have a business that's running on the property that we're trying to figure out how to phase. We want to keep the shops alive. We're not going to just go and terminate all the leases and bulldoze the property. So we're trying to figure out those phases, and how do we keep something operating while we're doing construction.
So, to Doug's point, do you have any comments or thoughts on workforce housing and how that might be integrated into the project?
The question was asked of me yesterday, I think, and my response was simply, can we talk about what that means? We're in a lot of different markets, and workforce housing or affordable housing means a lot of different things in a lot of different places. And so there's a pretty wide gambit. Can I comment on that without knowing any details? No, I'm not going to do that. That's just not how we operate. So I would need to understand more about, what are we thinking and what would be the request, on the project. And then we can have a conversation about like, what does that mean? But just throwing that term out when it's such a broad term, I can't say, yeah, of course we'll sign up for affordable housing.
David?
Could you tell us, if possible, how you feel like this project aligns with the town's comprehensive plan?
My understanding of the comprehensive plan is trying to work with the larger parcels, which we are one of them. I think we're the largest single commercial parcel in the town. I think we're 20% or something. And to proactively work with us to have a plan and a vision for the future. So that's my understanding of the comprehensive plan.
I'll say something. I appreciate that you have taken your time. You haven't rushed through. You've had several, I'm sorry, I'm getting over sinus infection. You have had several iterations, and I appreciate that you've included someone, at least one person on your team who is local and has that local perspective with the aesthetics. And I do appreciate that you've listened. I know that you have listened to what the community has said and what the planners have said for the town. But I think we can do better. I think, and I'm not a developer, but I do feel that the mass and scale of this first phase is not congruent with the town. And even though it may seem like it's on the outskirts of the town, it's not. It is a very prominent structure and piece of property coming in from the north. And, so many people tonight have said, it's not Blowing Rock, it doesn't look like Blowing Rock. And you may think, well, what does Blowing Rock look like? What does Blowing Rock look like? It is an eclectic mix, but if you look at Main Street, you can still see the thread that connects the look and creates the look and the charm of Blowing Rock. We've had a subcommittee working on revising our ordinance and zones. We've been working on it since April, and we are almost finished with the aesthetic nature of what we've come up with, the materials, and we still have to work on scale and size and mass. But I know that you guys have earnestly tried to put something together that would work. But I also feel like that we're somewhat vulnerable. As Mr. Miller and some others have said, that we are looking at making a decision tonight on Phase 1A. And I don't care for Phase 1A as it's presented. I think there are other tweaks that could be done, breaking it into 2 buildings or 3 buildings and using different types of facade materials, like the Manor. Just to point one out that has a very rustic look that fits with the environment. There are problems, I think, with the number of parking spaces. I don't, for the full-blown project, there aren't going to be enough parking spaces. Although I know you said you would include a parking deck. I have done some research, and there's no doubt that with this being short-term rental zone, that it is going to be a lot of investors who buy it and rent it. And right now, with all of the rooms that we have in hotels and inns and short-term rentals, we have 1,540 rooms in town that can be rented. And I think there does need to be market research and capacity of how many short-term rentals. It's not a case of like, you build them and they'll come. You build them, do we really want them to come? That's all I can think of now.
Is anybody else cold? Can we push a button?
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion for that. Okay.
Oh, boy. All right, council, thoughts? Somebody want to make a motion or come up with a motion?
David's got some more thoughts.
Oh, David,
Well, I think that,
you warming up?
not yet. I feel that there's a direction here, but I don't feel it's fair to let you go with just those comments. I think you need more direction with that than what you've heard so far. So what I would like to know is if you could enlighten me a little bit about the phasing. And I think I'm speaking for myself, I would have more comfort with phase 1A if I knew more about future phases. And I know that that depends on other factors, most likely to include how well phase 1 does, what Mr. Held comes back with in terms of market study. But do you have any thoughts that you could share with us about how that phasing may play out in terms of timeline or square footage or number of buildings, to give us a little insight into that?
I'll take a swag. I think in my ideal world, we would have a couple mixed-use buildings that would be directly north of this building, so that we could relocate tenants and begin to vacate more of the shopping center. So like, we've got to do a shell game of sorts where we entice, tenants to stay and sign up for something that's going to be later, and then build that later so they can move, so we can tear down more and kind of wash, repeat. So I would see, and this is a person's opinion into the company, I would see the southern portion of what we call the green, those buildings would make sense. Potentially the building that would be directly on the entrance when you come in on the right. So there's like another space out in the parking lot.
Building 8?
Yep. So I would see potentially those two buildings. Those two. And then yes, thank you. And then the number 3, so the bottom building, I don't know that we can get 10 in and have the other building in place. But obviously, we also have tenants that are going to have strong opinions about can they keep their shops open while we have construction equipment in the parking lot, and how do we safely allow people to go in and have fencing and all those different things. But if that was my best guess, it would be 6, 7, 8, 3 would be probably the next phase, and try to create enough space to relocate tenants, and then do the northernmost buildings. And I hesitate, like, obviously there's people there and you start to make inferences about who's in and who's out. And I mean, I get so many questions from our tenants today about what's happening and where are you putting us. And so we are sensitive to operating a business and, disclosing things. And we don't have that master plan. That's what I would predict would happen.
Do you think if you were denied tonight, that you could come back at a future date with more information about those phases, potential percentages of different uses that you would be targeting or would commit to? And if there were some concessions on our end up front for parking or other things, that we might be able to collaborate with you on something like workforce housing in the future.
I think all those things are on the table. I mean, the thing that I'm most curious about, and it's been said a lot, is like, it doesn't feel like Blowing Rock. And so obviously it's hard for us to program to that without the feedback. So I would welcome feedback to get closer to the look of Blowing Rock. I read through the minutes, and Mr. Winkler was like, we obviously are also a business, so it has to make business sense. Like, we can't, separate buildings to the point where like they don't make sense to build. But I do, yes, I would welcome feedback, direction, specificity on here's some things that would make it more palatable for the town. Could we consider affordable housing? Yes. I mean, we just need to understand, and I think I said this to Kevin, just what is being asked of us, what's expected, and then let us vet that, talk through it internally, have discussions as appropriate, and then come up with something that works. I mean, I feel like there's somewhere in here that works. That's my feeling anyway.
I would agree with that. I think there is at least on my part, a willingness to collaborate and find a happy medium that works for the town, works for the community, is aesthetically pleasing. You're not going to please everybody. I make a living trying to figure out what Blowing Rock looks like, and I can't tell you. We have arts and crafts. We have contemporary homes. We have Adirondack style. We have everything. So I really don't know, but at the core of it, I think our design standards try to get at that in terms of natural materials, nature blending colors, things of that nature, which I actually think you've taken a stab at. I don't know what the fine tuning is. I think that it's probably a larger discussion with staff who has also been dealing with this for, I know Kevin, for 19 years? 24? Wow, it went fast. So in terms of, so those are my thoughts kind of on the master plan, and that I would personally love to see kind of what intended uses are you looking at? Is it retail, restaurants, offices, and really kind of nail down those things. I think there's probably, my guess, 4 or 5 use categories and then sub-uses inside of those. Restaurants with indoor dining, restaurants with outdoor dining, those type of subcategories. Then I would love to see a percentage of each of those uses. Is retail a maximum of 40% or whatever that might be? Those type of things to start to hone in
what we could expect in future phases would be extremely helpful to me. In terms of Phase 1A, I've already commented on the aesthetics. But I think that the massing is what, at least the people that have contacted me are having a hard time getting past. It's roughly 400 feet in length. If we could break that up some, maybe into 2 or 3 120-foot segments, I think that would help a lot to go to bringing it into a scale that is more comfortable and might be in keeping with the character of the town. So I think those are my comments.
I've got a question. Why do you think this property is underutilized? You're in this business, you're REIT, and you see other properties.
I don't think anyone in their right mind, unless they're just have money to burn, would come in and build a single-story retail on this property today. Like, it's gonna have to go vertical to have some density. The land, I mean, there's not many large parcels of flat land up here in the high country anywhere, and no one's gonna blow the side of a mountain off anymore to make them. And so this is a valuable piece of property, and I think it needs to have some density on it in order to make it make sense.
And I'm sure you've looked at lots of different scenarios. Was one of them adding a second story to provide that density with a major facelift?
On top of the existing building? So we talked about doing piers around the building. It was actually one of the conversations we had early. And the, we tabled that relatively quickly. It makes for a really weird building to build a structure over a structure and put piers on the outside. I mean, I'll let you guys speak to that more. We talked probably for a week and we were advised that that's not the direction that we want to go.
I know that it's hard to balance, as you were talking about, if you continue on with these phases of moving the stores around so much. You may not be able to answer this, but do you see any that might be leaving, or do you see the possibility of new ones coming in?
We like, I feel so political and that's not me at all. We like the mix of local regional stores, the smaller businesses that are there. Tanger had national chains. We've been pretty intentional about bringing in some smaller companies. We like that. But that's not to say that we don't like the national chains. So, like, I want to be careful. I do not envision, I mean, certainly there's probably change when the project is all said and done. Some of the tenants won't tolerate we're not gonna mothball for 24 months and come back. Like, some of them will choose end the relationship and we'll go do something else. At which point we would look to, bring somebody else in. I have a job tomorrow.
So I think we ought to give the applicant the choice or the chance to come back and answer all these things that we've been talking about, and give them the opportunity to look and do your calculations. So next time you come back, the vision of the entirety of the project will be a little clearer. And that way we'd have, to David's point, more clarity on what the possibilities are.
If that's your thoughts, then you would need to make a motion to table it.
Oh. Okay.
until
I'll
an
make
unspecified date.
I'll make a motion that, how much time do you need to do that?
Can we, so there's been a lot of stuff discussed, and I think the detail of giving some generalities about, we think there might be X residential units and some restaurant. I think it's gonna get tough to get into, like 10% is gonna be restaurant, 10% might be commercial office we've heard that that's a need in the town for, a financial planner's office or something of that nature, like a small business. If it could be larger groupings, like maybe residential and other retail, or like a couple, if you're like, here's the 3 groupings we're really curious about, I think that would help. Obviously, the deeper we go, the longer it's gonna take. I guess that's the answer to the question is, I don't know that in a month we're gonna have it, depending on, we're not gonna have elevations of buildings, and hopefully that's not asked for, but, the other buildings, so
So is 2 months
Pete,
more agreeable?
I wouldn't set a time. I would just table it until planning department notifies us, because it should go in front of planning and zoning again before it comes in front of us. So I'd keep it open for the developer. That way you're giving them ample time to do their research to make those changes.
What do y'all think?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in reference to something you just said about the elevations of the other buildings, so are you saying that you don't feel you can bring a full plan back to us, completely built out at any point?
No, I was saying the amount of time. So you'd want to see the elevations of every single building, not a representative building that would be the architectural standard for the rest of the property. And I only say that, like, let's just be practical for a second. If building 6 had a specific tenant, like maybe it's a 2-story building and not a 1-story building, or something based upon who goes in it, like there's gonna be nuances based upon who comes in. And so I think we can give you representative architecture, which I feel like we've tried to do, but saying this is exactly what every building is gonna look like feels like, I don't know that I have that ability at this point.
So I'll go ahead and restate the motion to table it then.
Okay, we have a motion to table this decision till a future date. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Doug?
Yeah, I know that we've kind of put you in a hard place there. Do you feel like we've given you enough guidance?
I think that was what I was asking for in the timing is, what are you hoping to see? If it's percentages of use, I think if we could pull that together reasonably quickly, we can give you representation of the architecture. We can hone that in to where everybody's comfortable. I feel like there's some things that we can do to really put bumpers around where we're heading, which it seems like the community wants. Having every use specified is not going to be something that will be quick. And I don't know that, you're asking us to kind of jump forward 4 years and know what's going to be in a building, and I don't know that we'll know that.
Well, you understand, we're not in a rush.
You're not in a rush?
We're not in a rush.
I don't think we're in a rush. I think the ask would be important for me to let you know, can we do it in a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever.
Since we're in discussion, I would vote no to table this. I would rather act on the proposal as it's presented, and then let the applicant come back when and if they're ready. Puts it back in their court instead of keeping this on a rolling basis, I guess.
Well, we have a first and second. Pete, you can revise your motion if you so wish. Or we can vote on the motion tabled, and if it does not get approved, then we can do another motion.
I think I'm going to stand with my motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
So in discussion, on David's point, you're saying you would rather, just so I understand, instead of tabling it, you would rather deny
Yeah.
and send it
They
to.
can bring it back when they're ready. If they want to bring it back.
Say that again, David?
He's saying
In lieu of tabling.
fling it. He'd rather vote on it and it be denied, and then they could do what they wish from there.
Excuse me.
But
Yeah.
I
Joey.
think Joey has.
No, I mean, ultimately, it's, you guys' decision. I think it would be cleaner if we just table it, as Pete suggested, as opposed to voting for or against it.
What's the advantage to that?
The finality of the decision by the council.
But they can still come back
Correct.
with a different plan.
But is there something that's why you guys don't want to table it as opposed to just voting?
I think the end result's probably the same. So, I mean,
If it is denied, do they have to go back, they have to go through the planning board and everything all over again, right?
I think they should do that anyway.
Yeah, they should have to do that anyway before they come in front of
Are they
us.
going to have to do that if we table it? Would that be the one
It
difference?
ultimately comes down to what, changes are made. I mean, if there are changes, like, the extent that you're providing, yeah, they would have to go through all those anyways. If you want to ensure that that is the case, and they would have to start from scratch, then yes. Vote up or down.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. We'll vote on that motion. Kat? Would you like me to move on to someone else first?
Yes.
Okay, David?
No.
Melissa?
Yes.
Doug? Yes. Pete?
Yes.
No.
Okay. All right. It's 3-2. The motion was made to table this until a future time. I think generally speaking, everybody wants people to be successful. And I think that with your meeting with planning, zoning, and maybe conversations with town council members, because they've heard from a lot of the public, might be beneficial to you. So this has been tabled till unspecified date, and we'll wait to hear from planning and zoning, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take a short break while we. Okay. Well, we got the mayor's comments, your comments, and you're long-winded. All right, yeah. We gotta take a 10-minute recess. to the next 3-hour section of our meeting. Um, Official reports and comments. As mayor, I just want to thank the town, Public Works, Parks and Rec, all of our town employees, administrative, for all they do for us and our citizens. That's it. So thank you. Kat?
I don't have anything.
Okay. David?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Melissa?
I'm good.
Doug?
Thank everybody for coming out to the COG banquet that was able to make it.
You did a good job. You did good, Doug.
Really did.
Right out of the hospital, too.
That day, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
I had him pictured in a hospital gown with one of these little walkers with the little bottle on, you know?
With the back open.
Yeah. Pete?
A couple of things, please. First of all, wanted to give thanks to town police and EMS that came to take care of me on my Italian head hitting pavement on ice, which was not a good result. It was Thomas Gunnels, and the EMS was Jack Price, Kobe Witt, Jonathan Hodges, and Luke Key. And then to all of them, thank you, and I hope you'll pass on my thoughts because they were very proficient. Secondly, we have our Economic Development Commission meeting on the 20th is going to be at App Ski. So we have Dr. Christine Henderson from ASU, who's been appointed as a board member. She's coming to talk about all things app and should be pretty interesting. And finally, congratulations to Heather Norris, now the new chancellor of app. And from what I understand, she's really a great lady, and probably thanks to Ray and others and Dustin for making that happen. So thank you.
Pete, what time is the meeting for the EDC?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you read it? Joey?
Just one thing, in 2 weeks, I'll be going to the UNC School Government. They're having their municipal attorneys winter conference. So that's 3 days of hanging out with attorneys, so I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we can network with some other municipal attorneys from across the state, see how they're tackling.
Very good. Thank you for representing us. Mr. Fox?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Oh, no, he's standing up, guys. This is going to be a while.
It's going to be update first. We'll go on projects. Some of these projects we've talked about for quite some time. Main Street, still waiting on paving, yet to be determined the date exactly. That is going to be with Mayme through DOT. Maple Street is completed. It will also still need to be resurfaced. That'll be part of that same process. And project 221 water line installation will be completed in the next week. Potentially this week if the weather continues to be as nice as it was today, and that does include installation and service connections. If not, within the first part of next week. Iron Mountain, the contractor on 221, same contractor for Maple Street and Main Street. Then after completion of 221, whether, again, that's this week or early next week, we'll finalize the Main Street project. There's still a couple of hydrants that have to be replaced and some valve boxes and a few things like that. We're expected within the next 2 weeks-ish, all projects to be completed, water lines, sewer lines, services, check boxes, et cetera, should be completed. And then again, we're just waiting on that paving process to come through. FEMA update, we've concluded the Wonderland Trail repair. If you haven't had a chance to go out and take a look at it, the paving has taken place. Curb and gutter, everything's put back into place. So we're just waiting on our final invoice to be able to submit that to FEMA. All documents up to this point, whether it's debris, emergency work, reimbursement for salaries and time or materials or machinery, or Wonderland Trail, all have been submitted up to this point. So we're just waiting on FEMA reimbursement. I say submitted as in it's in the queue, waiting on monies to come down to us. What's left is Valley View. Continue to talk about Valley View. That is our largest slide. That one is beyond the $250,000 number for the procurement process, so we are going to have to go through a bid process. One of the requirements, because of the nature of the repair, reestablishing a shoulder where there is no shoulder, reestablishing a base where there is no base, is that we're contracting with Catawba Valley Engineering to come up and do some soil samples to make sure we know where bedrock is. We believe we do. And again, if you go back several months, we talked about that repair is going to be similar to Wonderland, where we're reestablishing a base and then using gabion baskets to come back on that. We've got to make sure we know where that base is because of the severity of the slope. So Wonderland Trail is complete. Valley View is still out there waiting on these soil samples. And then once we receive those, we should get the go-ahead from FEMA to move forward with the bidding process. So we've got one more hurdle there before we put it out. I have updated the homeowners on Valley View and Orchard as of today of where we are within that timeline. So we're optimistic to have some outcomes pretty soon with those soil samples that will then allow us to do the bidding process. I have shared with him, like I've shared with you, that is a 30-day bid process, and we do hope to get 3. If not, we'll have to rebid it. So yet to be determined. Sunset Drive, you approve? Yes, David.
The FEMA reimbursable, is that like our FEMA sidewalk? Is that
No.
Any
Well,
anticipation on how long that might take?
So we have the FEMA sidewalk, the hurricane that took place a couple years ago and took out the sidewalk on Laurel Lane was one small project. I think it was a $100,000 project. Obviously, we've got multiple projects here. We have a project manager through FEMA. Mr. Swanson is fantastic to work with. He has assured us they have been pushing down from the top, federal government down, to get money in people's hands. So he believes that we should start seeing money here very soon. Now, the severity of Wonderland and the size of it may slow that one down. The others are smaller in nature, and they've been in the queue for a little while now, waiting on the funds to be dispersed. So we're optimistic we'll start seeing some money relatively soon. I know that's within their orders. They've been asked to do so. Federal government and state government as well is to get money into the hands of those that are in need of it. Last month, you approved the Sunset Drive crosswalks at the school. We've been notified by Greens Constructions that the bricks have been ordered. They're expected to be here by the end of the month. Weather permitting, around the 1st of April, that construction will take place. It will not take a tremendous amount of time. They are going to utilize the plates to be able to allow traffic to come back and forth through. But again, looking around the first week of April from that time frame, and that should be a pretty short project, and then we'll get through and see kind of what the final product looks like. Trout Derby has been moved to May 3rd. That's a direct result of the hurricane, the large, or I think a couple large hatcheries that the North Carolina Wildlife utilizes to be able to stock the rivers and the lakes and the ponds was damaged during Hurricane Helene. So here locally, we do a trout derby. For many, many years, it's been kind of headed up by Kim Rogers and some with Jenkins, and then most recently with Speckled Trout. They are able to obtain a number of fish through another hatchery, a private hatchery. And North Carolina Wildlife has approved them to do so and put those within Mayview and within our waters here. And the plan for them to do so is going to be around the 2nd or 3rd week of April. So the reason for the move is to be able to have those fish in there for making that day as fun as possible. A lot of kids come out and participate in it. We want to make sure they're able to catch things. Not stocking those ponds and waters, et cetera, would make it for maybe not as much of a fun of experience. So several hundred fish coming in, a week or two ahead of time is typically what we do to allow that experience to be more fun. So Trout Derby, and we have put this out through the Tadler. We'll put it out through the town as well. It's been moved to May 3rd. Typically, it's the first weekend in April. May 3rd, we'll probably have better weather than what we typically have. So we'll see. Planning board is next week on March the 20th. As of right now, that is just for swearing in to allow for new planning board members to be seated so they can start with the process of being in the queue for projects that are coming up April, May, et cetera. So right now, no agenda is set for planning board outside of the swearing in. Memorial Park was approved last month. We did have a meeting with VPC, which was the contractor that was awarded the bid. They're expecting to start the project and get a notice to proceed next week. First week or two will be typical, setting up fencing and surrounding areas, lay down areas, et cetera. With this project, we will have a traffic change on Wallingford and Park Avenue. So here is our graphic that Ms. Kirk put together. So hopefully it makes sense. If you're coming down Park Avenue, I say coming down because I can use directionals, but most people don't know it. If you're coming from Main Street down Park Avenue, You will go around through the Legion parking lot, which is kind of what you see there in the picture, and come out the lower entrance of the Legion parking lot. If you're coming up, again, that's not a directional, just coming up, technically I think it's west, from Laurel up Wallingford, you will get into the left-hand lane and move forward around the construction fence that will be in place. The right-hand lane essentially will be closed during this project. The reason being so, one, that paved area where the parking is going to be the ingress and egress for the construction getting in and out of the park. Again, all this project's pretty much on the back side of the park. They have to have the ability to get in the park on the back side without disturbing the front. We want to keep open the playground, gazebo area. Obviously, coming in through the police department would disturb some of that as well. So they're going to utilize the back side of the park, so to speak, to have ingress and egress in and out of the construction for the tennis courts and the basketball courts, et cetera. We will have signage up. We will use our mobile digital signs. We will also put down arrows, literally paint arrows down on the road to assist in that. There's no doubt we will have some mistakes, I'm sure, made, but we will have traffic flowing continuously through this project by allowing traffic from Park to go through the American Legion and traffic from Laurel to go to the left-hand lane through Wallingford. We will push this out pretty heavily over the next couple of days. Once we get the guaranteed start date, we'll start pushing this out on social media, town website. We'll ask the Tadler and others, chamber, et cetera, to put out the information to let them know. Hopefully, it's pretty self-explanatory once they get up there with the amount of signs and paint and overall just sheer fence that will be in the way.
Do we need to move the steering wheels?
Yeah. Yes, so we are, as a part of the project, we're removing the parking spaces on the right. So we will be doing something very similar to that already with utilizing that area for the traffic to flow. That's right. Perhaps, we need to talk to them about the logistics of where they're going to be, but more than likely we'll have to, yes. Yeah. That should be fenced off, so it wouldn't allow for a trash truck to get in there. So yes, we'll have to move those pretty quickly. Great point, Doug. Something that we had not talked about. That dumpster will not be screened, at least initially. We'll have to talk to them about the phasing of what that would look like. So that dumpster will be moved over to the American Legion parking lot pretty early on during this time frame, and we will not have that screening, I'm sure. We'll figure out a plan for that and make sure that we take care of that as soon as we can. Yes, ma'am.
Have you all talked with the chamber and stuff about how this is going to affect Art in the Park this season?
We have. A concern is obviously the amount of folks we have in that area. Having one lane in and out is typically what it is now almost. A lot of times they go in and they turn around. But they're going to have to utilize chamber staff if we continue to have it on Park Avenue. I do know there's been conversations, and it's pretty early on. Ms. Miller is obviously fresh into town about Park Avenue and Art in the Park, and overall just the traffic logistics of this. So yet to be determined. Their first date is in May. I think it's the third week in May, so we've got a little bit of time to tweak that, but we're in active conversations with the chamber and Ms. Miller on what this potentially would do and what it would look like from just a sheer traffic standpoint. It's very congested on Art in the Park with all the roads, being open as much as they can be. This is definitely going to make that even more so.
Yeah, because they usually use the right-hand side for their lineup so people can go around them.
Sorry, that concludes my updates for tonight. Any questions?
Any more on the stream reparation behind the water plant down there?
Yes, so spoke to the New Rivers Conservancy after our retreat, and they gave me the start date of June, 1st of June to do that work. And I've been told is a very quick process, just a few weeks is what I've been shared. So I don't have an exact date, but they did say expect to start around the 1st of June.
Shane, can you give us an update on the parking proposal implementation?
So no implementation yet. We do have a meeting scheduled for, I believe, next week with Meredith to discuss a potential timeline and execution of what that would look like. As you recall, during the retreat, we talked about putting enforcement in place and having enforcement as being that first step. Not been able to get with Meredith and our individual here. We have designated an individual that does work for the town through our dispatch as being our leader, our administrator of this program. They have the capacity to do so. I know we mentioned removing it from the police department. This is not a sworn officer. This would be someone that is within the police department from a dispatch standpoint. This person does have administrative and some parking background. So this person has been identified, and we've talked about this person being our champion. And that's who the meeting is with. It's a combination of all of us to kind of talk through what that would look like and what's needed for us to be able to get that started.
Council? Good? All right.
Thank you.
We're going into closed session under?
North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11.A3.
3.
Oh,
Yeah, A3-5. A3 and 5, excuse me.
A3 and 5.
Yes, yes. Good. Okay.